Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
All right, we're going to get into the Donald Trump thing coming up in a moment, but I want to first bag on my kids and kids in general. So I am a chronic hand washer, but not for the reasons that most people would think. If someone tells you, like Paul Cross, so someone says I'm a chronic hand washer, your first thought is what? They hate germs, right? They're a germaphobe.
Hate germs, constantly cleaning your hands.
Yeah, I don't care about germs. Germs are irrelevant to me. We're all covered in germs, microscopic germs, and I don't care. And I'll run my hand down a stair rail or an escalator rail, and then I'll just lick my fingers. I don't care about germs. It's irrelevant to me. The reason why I'm a chronic hand washer is because if I get I hate sticky. I hate sticky. And if somehow, some way, my hands feel remotely sticky, I can't put lotion on my hands so my hands are always dry. My fingernails are always dry because I can't put lotion on my hands because lotion is sticky. And I hate sticky. So to me, the worst thing about having children is they're sticky. Children are sticky. They are the stickiest. And I remember back, when they were newborns and you're changing diapers, you're like, oh my gosh, my hands are sticky. And then you've got to go wash your hands because you touched a child. And then when they become toddlers and then they eat with their fingers and everything is sticky. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's all sticky. Well, last night, after I got off the air, I don't know if you remember this, but I was really, really hungry when I got off the air last night. And I said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat straight away. I didn't, because as soon as I got off the air last night, one of my 17-year-old sons, I have two 17-year-old sons, but one of my two 17-year-old sons texted me and said, hey, Dad, can we go driving tonight? We needed to get ready for the driver's license test. I said, yeah, sure. So we went driving for about an hour and a half last night into the darkness, which I was glad because he hadn't done any nighttime driving yet. So it was our first time to do nighttime driving last night. And after I drove him back to his mom, well, actually, after he drove himself back to his mom's house, I got back into the driver's seat of the car and immediately found that the steering wheel was sticky. He's 17 years old. When does the stickiness stop? When do children stop being sticky? When does that end? It's got to end at some point, right?
I don't know. You've still got, three fingers, pudding fingers, DeSantis who's getting sticky. Right. It just doesn't matter.
That's right.
My hands get sticky for everything, But you're right. Kids don't seem to mind it as much as adults do. When your hands are sticky, you're going, I got to clean myself. Kids don't care. They touch everything and get everything else sticky like you noticed.
Yeah. So that's just that's my biggest pet peeve is the stickiness of children, and I wish they would stop. I wish my kids would wash their hands as often as I wash my hands because it drives me crazy that because I used to hold their hands when they were little, when they were, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, whatever. I'd hold hands with my kids, and I was, there's nothing more delightful than holding, taking your adult massive hand and holding a child's tiny little grubby hands, and it's just so cute. Except they're sticky.
It's sticky.
Right. Unless they're sticky, which they are always sticky. They're never not sticky, and it absolutely drives me batty. So there you go. That's it. That's my pet peeve about children. 844-580-WDBO, or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Do you guys want to talk about...
Is it a sensory thing, by the way, Joe? Is it a sensory thing? Do you like sticky tape? Can you touch the sticky part of a tape or anything like that?
As long as it doesn't come off on my hands. I don't mind...
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind touching something sticky, but if my hands become sticky, I've got to immediately go wash my hands. And I wash my hands dozens of times a day. And again, not because of germs. I'm not a germaphobe. I'm down for the germs. I'm just not down for stickiness. And the reason why I bring this up is because today on my way to work, I stopped at Publix because that's, what I do. I stopped at the Publix in Hamlin, and I bought a loaf of wheat bread, not white bread, but wheat bread. I bought a jar of Jif crunchy peanut butter. I bought a bottle of honey. and I bought a family-sized bag of Cheetos. And I thought, I'm just going to go to work because I was craving a peanut butter and honey sandwich. So I thought I'll just buy a whole loaf of bread and a can of peanut butter and a jar of honey and take it to work with me. So I've got crunchy peanut butter. I was having crunchy peanut butter and honey sandwiches earlier today. And honey is the worst. Honey always follows the path of least resistance. Honey is worse than water when it comes to following the path of least resistance. Honey finds a way. It's like Dr. What's his name from Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. Honey finds a way to get out of the sandwich. Okay, honey finds a way to get onto your hands and to get sticky. And so I felt like my hands have been sticky all day today because of the honey sandwich that I had earlier today. And then I was just getting over the stickiness of my hands from the steering wheel last night. So this Paul, this is the hell that is my life.
Could it be a mental thing, though? You just can't shake it. Your hands may not even be sticky, but you can't shake the thought of it. So you go wash your hands.
No. I know when they're sticky.
Right.
I can tell when they're sticky, and especially because I have to use this. I use a trackball instead of a mouse because I have large man hands, and mice. Computer mouses are just too small.
Mises.
They're too small for my giant man hands. And so I need to use a trackball, which is just a little bit bigger for my giant man hands, which works a lot better. All right, you guys want to talk about Donald Trump and the indictments in Georgia? So I've been thinking about this. Look, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to be the best person to comment on Donald Trump and his legal woes. But I will say this. I have made it abundantly clear that Donald Trump is not my guy moving forward. I have grown weary of Donald Trump's antics. I have grown weary of Donald Trump's temper tantrums. I have grown weary of the lack of discipline from Donald Trump. I have grown weary from Donald Trump. And he was not my first choice in the first place. I voted for Donald Trump twice in both general elections. I voted against other people during the primary elections. But when it comes to Donald Trump or any unnamed Democrat, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I will do it a third time if his name appears on the general election ballot, but I am not voting for him in the primary election. I find Donald Trump supporters, many of the supporters, there's two different camps of Donald Trump supporters. People like me who will vote for Donald Trump if necessary. To not vote for a Democrat. And then there's the other kind of the fanatical sycophants that plaster their 4x4 pickup trucks with giant banners, and they're the ones that, frankly, and this just aggravates me, they're the ones that are disrupting every other presidential candidate. Ron DeSantis, love him or hate him, Ron DeSantis was in Iowa over the weekend, and they were doing a little town hall session. And these obnoxious, fanatical, sycophant Trump supporters are constantly blowing whistles and dinging cowbells to interrupt Ron DeSantis's town hall that was being hosted by some woman who I could only imagine is a Republican Party official or something along those lines. And I just find that to be classless. I mean, there is no class for some of these Trump supporters to get out there and disrupt other events and hoot and holler and you know what? Be respectful, because some of us want to hear what other candidates have to say. And we've seen enough roaming microphones of people going through Trump crowds asking Trump fanatics what they think about Donald Trump. And so many times they just haven't the foggiest idea. They're just going along with the rest of the crowd, and they don't have a thought of their own. They don't have an original thought of their own. So I have really been kind of anti-Donald Trump in this election cycle. After all of the indictments, after everything that the Democrat Party and the Biden Department of Justice has put Donald Trump through, I am on the precipice of changing my support. I really was down for Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis, he still has a chance, but he has imploded on the campaign trail. He failed to launch, and what little he launched has just imploded on him. And Ron DeSantis is, at this point, embarrassing himself on the campaign trail. And I don't know what another Donald Trump presidency is going to look like. But at this point, I feel like Donald Trump is going to be best suited in the White House to deal with the swamp. There, I said it. I might even vote for Donald Trump in the primary. I mean, it's still early. We still have time. I cannot believe that Chris Christie has moved ahead of Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire. That blows my mind. I mean, Ron DeSantis is, like I said, he's embarrassing himself. He is absolutely imploding on the campaign trail. And I am embarrassed for him. I don't know if he is embarrassed for himself, but I am feeling the embarrassment for Ron DeSantis for his utter failure to launch. And what little bit he has launched, it has just really imploded. He absolutely blows at retail politics. Retail politics is getting out and shaking hands, smiling, not laughing like a maniacal crazy man. I don't know who taught Governor DeSantis how to laugh, but they need to rein that crap in. Ron DeSantis just looks like a crazy man when he starts laughing. And I know that's petty, but that's something that voters look at. I mean, voters look at likability. And, I mean, you've got to start with likability. And then, from there you move on to policy issues. But if you're not likable, if people don't like you, they're not going to listen to your policy decisions. And Ron DeSantis just has a really hard time being likable on the campaign trail. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. I know I've thrown a lot at you here in the last 14 minutes or so here on the Joe Kelley Show, but you can climb on. Do you also hate how sticky children are? And are you ready to throw your support to Donald Trump instead of Ron DeSantis or anybody else? I just think that the more the Democrats throw at Donald Trump, the more they are securing his next election, his next victory. I think they're foolish. I think the Democrats are absolutely foolish by trying to assail Donald Trump at every turn as they're doing right now. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. What you missed today while you're at work, that is coming up next.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
By the way, it's going to be a quick turnaround for me tonight when I get off there at 7 o'clock because I'll be back on the air tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. as I'm hosting the Brian Kilmeade Show tomorrow morning, his network show. So tune in tomorrow as I'll be filling in for Brian Kilmeade, 9 a.m. to noon, and then I will be back hosting the Joe Kelley Show here from 5 till 7 on WDBO. And that, of course, a week from Friday is our Make-A-Wish-a-thon, which I'm very, very excited about to benefit Make-A-Wish of Central and Northern Florida. All right, while you're at work today, here are the headlines that you missed while you're at the office, as you're in your cubicle farm, as you're on a sales call today, as you were down there on the factory floor, if you were in the sequin mines of North Orlando, if you're down in the mines, these are the stories that you missed today. Spain reached its first Women's World Cup final after a dramatic late goal beating Sweden 2-1. How's the U.S. women's team doing? Oh, that's right. They lost, didn't they? That was from the New York Times. 6 hours ago, CBS reported that Carlos de Oliveira, he's the Mar-a-Lago property manager, pleads not guilty to charges brought by special counsel Jack Smith. 6 hours ago, the Associated Press reported that the mother of that 6-year-old boy who shot and critically wounded his teacher in a Virginia classroom full of students back in January, the mother has pleaded guilty to a charge of felony child neglect. 3 hours ago, CNN reported that a former high-level FBI official, remember how we talk about fraud in the FBI and how the FBI is no longer the premier law enforcement agency that it once was? This is a prime example of that. Former high-level FBI official pleading guilty to one count of conspiracy in connection to a scheme working for a sanctioned Russian oligarch. This FBI agent official took more than $170,000 in bribes. 3 hours ago, ABC News had the report that President Biden finally President Biden, after his Sunday no comment at Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, when asked if he has any kind of message for the victims of the wildfires in Maui, Joe Biden literally said, no comment. I don't know how you could possibly, any human being would muster the words no comment if you have something to say about the victims of the wildfire in Maui. But that is what our president said. Somebody got a hold of the president today, pulling his strings, the marionette president we have. So President Biden held a brief news conference today. You heard it live here on WDBO. It wasn't a news conference. It was a statement because he did not take questions. President Biden says Hawaii will have, quote, everything it needs in the wake of deadly wildfires that have devastated Maui, calling it the deadliest wildfire in more than 100 years. By the way, when the president says they're going to have everything it needs, they don't. They don't have everything they need in Maui right now. In fact, there's widespread looting going on right now in Maui. Some of the looting is people coming in from outside trying to steal things. Some of the looting are people just trying to get water and food and something to eat or drink. But the president, literally the same week, he authorizes $200 million to go to Ukraine. That would be an additional $200 million to Ukraine. President Joe Biden is going to give $700 checks to the victims of the Maui wildfires. $700, he says, to help them get back on their feet again. Yeah, they literally have nothing. They have the clothes on their back. Everything in their world is gone. The four walls that were once their homes are gone. Their cars are gone. Their jobs are gone. Everything is gone. And President Biden is giving $200 million to Ukraine, but $700 for people in Maui, Hawaii. 2 hours ago, CNN had this story that the feds will ease water restrictions on the Colorado River after huge winter snow, but officials warn there still might be a shortage due to long-term drought. And Fox News had the story just an hour ago. Georgia court officials offer a new explanation for the, quote, fictitious indictment posted before the Trump charges. Reuters had and we talked about this yesterday, that Reuters had this report yesterday that they had the indictment. Reuters published the indictment yesterday, and they deleted it. They took the post down shortly after putting it up, but the indictment that was later handed down by the district attorney in Fulton County is identical to the indictment that was published by Reuters. So what a miracle it is. How convenient it is that the indictment, while they're still hearing witnesses, they already have the results of the indictment and it was published. Funny how that works. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Join me tomorrow morning from 9 to noon as I fill in for Brian Kilmeade here on WDBO.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. News, weather, traffic, all the things you want on your drive home. Plus, Joe Kelley being, well, Joe Kelley. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
Coming up in a minute here, I mentioned last night that looters should be shot on sight in Maui, and I've come into new information about some of the looting that's going on there, and I want to add a caveat to my shooting looters on-site policy. So I'll get to that for you coming up in a minute. Also talking about, of course, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, late last night, just a bizarre news conference last night, late at night. Bizarre that Reuters released the full indictment before they even had the witness testimony of the indictment. I mean, this is weird that they had already figured out the indictment before it was even voted on. I mean, this is, it just sounds so corrupt what is coming out of Fulton County, Georgia. And I look, Trump is not going to be my first choice. I really wanted to get behind Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis is just making a fool of himself on the campaign trail right now, and he's just not. He's not punching through. He's not relating to people. People aren't connecting with him, and that's on Ron DeSantis. After all of the persecution and prosecution that Donald Trump has gone through, at this point, I'm like, meh. All right, fine. Let's do Donald Trump then. Let's put Donald Trump back in there and see how that works out. My biggest concern about Donald Trump getting the GOP nomination is that he can't beat Joe Biden, which I would think a leftover burrito should be able to beat Joe Biden. I can't comprehend how Joe Biden is ahead in polls against these GOP candidates. Not that the GOP candidates are so astounding. It's just that Joe Biden is such a terrible candidate, such a terrible president. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that necessarily as a partisan comment. He is a terrible president because of his lack of cognitive ability and the embarrassment that he presents to the United States on the world stage. When the guy can't stay awake for hearings, he can't stay up for dinners. I mean, this guy is embarrassing the United States day after day on the world stage. And I cannot believe that Joe Biden is leading in the polls, even over Donald Trump. So I don't know that electing Donald Trump or making him the party nominee is going to be a good call. But at this point, the way that the Democrats have gone after him, the way that the Democrats have done everything they can when they should just try to beat him at the ballot box, at this point, I feel like, fine. Fine. Just give it to Donald Trump. That's fine. 844-580-WDBO.
You know, Joe, you're right. Those people are classless. But anymore, all politics are classless. And look at the media, exempting you. The media is classless. Our whole atmosphere is classless. And I'm like you. I voted for Trump twice, decided not to because I'm just weary of what's going on around him, even though he did a lot of good. But now I think I'm voting for him because of what they're doing to him.
Yeah, that's, I mean, with each passing indictment, and I think we're on our last one now, but with each passing indictment, it only makes Donald Trump stronger. And I cannot figure out how the Democrats are so dumb that they can't figure that out. That they think that they are putting another chink in the armor of Donald Trump by indicting him again and again and again and again. But what they're really doing is polishing that armor and making it stronger. And they're fools for thinking that this is going to help them politically.
I think the main reason most of them like Trump, I like Trump. I got no problem with him. I don't think he's like the savior, end-all, be-all of Mr. Trump. But he's not completely owned by, like, the rest of them are going to be lifetime politicians. That's just all there is to it. They're funded by Fortune 500 companies, and you and I can't play the game. Neither can the other fellow citizens.
Yeah, 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Okay, Joe, scratch my earlier recording. I agree with you 100%. You are absolutely correct on this one. Trump's being persecuted, prosecuted illegally and politically, and I'm going to vote for him. I think he's going to be the nominee anyway.
I don't know what your first comment was, but thank you.
Hey, Joe, I agree with everything you said about Trump and DeSantis, and I think that it's time for the entire swap to be completely cleaned out. I believe we need mandatory term limits and age limits.
Oh, I would be so down for mandatory term limits and age limits. 65, possibly 75 at the oldest. Dianne Feinstein, now 90 years old. She fell again in her home in San Francisco. What was it now? Last weekend.
Hey, Joe, it's Vicki in Maitland. I am right there with you. voted for Trump twice, totally over him, leaning towards DeSantis, who has now embarrassed himself and bombing. And now with all of the indictments and the unfairness of it all, I'm leaning towards Trump again.
Yeah, I know. That happens. Now, open mic here about the more important topic, and that is peanut butter and honey sandwiches and hand washing.
Hey, Joe. Peanut butter and honey is the perfect sandwich for doing any hiking, biking, or anything like that.
Right?
You know, it will never go bad. As far as hand washing, you know, basically my wife is a chronic hand washer. And due to that, she pretty much has erased her fingerprints, so she can't even open the fingerproof safe on the gun case.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing, that you could wash your fingerprints off. That's good to know. I'll just make a note of that. I'll wash my hands a little bit more often. So thank you for that. Now, I want to circle back to the looting that's taking place in Maui right now. There's two different types of looting that's taking place in Maui right now. There are those absolute scum of the earth who are coming into the territory, coming into the area, and they are opportunistic pigs who are stealing from people who've lost everything. They're looking for, melted metals that have value. They're looking for anything that has value that they can steal. But there is another kind of looter there as well, and that is the people who, in spite of what Joe Biden, President Biden, said today, that the people of Maui are going to have everything that they need, the people of Maui do not. In spite of Oprah Winfrey and her camera crew, the people of Maui do not have everything that they need. And there are areas of Maui that have not seen a single first responder, not seen a single recovery team, not seen a single fire crew or police crew or FEMA crew or National Guard crew or Coast Guard crew or Army crew or Navy crew or anything, that they have not seen anybody or anything. And those poor people are resorting to looting to steal food and drinks. There's a guy named Jeremy Aganos. He owns a restaurant called the Coconut Caboose. I bet it was a great restaurant. I bet it is a great restaurant. It's one of the few buildings that survived the fires on Front Street in Lahaina. He said it was utter chaos at his restaurant because people were trying to find food, water, and shelter. So people had broken into his restaurant just to find food. And therein lies the problem with shooting looters. I am more than happy to shoot looters who are in there, going for the opportunity to find precious metals, to find anything of value and steal it. Because those are the kind of looters that motivate people to not evacuate when the evacuation order is given. They are the looters that cause people to not evacuate even if an evacuation order isn't given. We see it here in Florida during hurricane season, that there are people who refuse to leave their homes because they're afraid of looters. That should not be a reason why you die. That should not be a reason why you refuse to leave your home and you stay home and you get caught up in the flooding, you get caught up in the wind damage, you get caught up in the fire, whatever the calamity is. The threat of looters should not be the reason why you lose your life. But I don't want to be shooting people who are trying to find food and water. So I want to give that caveat to my comments yesterday, which in hindsight maybe could have been a little bit more disciplined. Because I don't want to shoot people who are just trying to stay alive. I don't want to shoot people who are just trying to feed their children. I understand that I would do the same thing if I was in their situation. I would want to find food wherever I could find it. I would want to find medicine wherever I could find it. I would want to find shelter wherever I could find it to take care of my family. And I understand that. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. I'm Joe Kelley. You're listening to The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelley. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
So glad you're joining us here on The Joe Kelley Show. Tune in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to noon. I'm going to be filling in for Brian Kilmeade on his network show, which is always a blast for me. I sure enjoy that very much. It's a whole lot of fun. So that'll be tomorrow, 9 to noon, and then I'll be back, of course, to host my show here from 5 till 7 p.m. We are talking about whether or not the latest Trump indictment is going to change your vote for or against Donald Trump. I mean, conventional wisdom would suggest that somebody who is indicted multiple times in 4, sweeping indictments has it a chance in hell of getting elected to the White House. But conventional wisdom has never, ever applied to Donald Trump.
Hey, Joe, if you like Biden, keep supporting Trump. A vote for Trump is a vote for Biden. Trump will never be president again.
And look, dude, that has been my thought process for months now on this, and I agree with you. But at this point, with DeSantis flaming out and Chris Christie on the rise, I just feel like at this point I'm ready to throw in the towel and say, "Oh, to hell with this." Let's just see what happens with Donald Trump as the party nominee. Maybe it's just the media guy in me that just wants to see more Donald Trump news stories. I don't know, but I am tired of Donald Trump. I'm weary of Donald Trump. And there is no such thing as conventional wisdom, as I said, when it comes to Donald Trump. One would think that this would have all knocked him out. The Democrats thought it. The Democrats thought that this would have knocked him out. The Democrats miscalculated at every single turn.
If you're not a Democrat or a liberal or a left-leaning independent, I think you're going to be disappointed in 2024.
Yeah.
I think we're in really deep kimchi.
All right, 2 thoughts. I agree with you. And secondly, why did you bring up kimchi? Now I'm hungry for kimchi. It's always something, isn't it? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. A Ron DeSantis supporter is mad because he had to fire staff that worked at his restaurant. He was employing illegal immigrants, and he got fined $500,000 for employing illegal immigrants. And now he's mad at Ron DeSantis because he had to fire all of his illegal immigrants. Well, we saw this coming, y'all. You shouldn't be surprised. We're going to get into the details of it coming up next.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Still looking at a lot of heavy slowing into downtown I-4 westbound from Princeton on to the 408 eastbound. It kind of stops there, though. I mean, things look pretty good on the 408 eastbound if you're heading out toward the 417. We do have that multi-vehicle crash. It's blocking the right lane, and this is just about at John Young Parkway, but traffic is getting a lot better through there. So I don't have a camera on it, but it looks like they may have moved that out of the way. ProTech Air Conditioning and Plumbing. For honesty, integrity, and 100% customer satisfaction, call ProTech at 407-291-1644 or visit protechac.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Insightful.
You tell the truth from your point of view.
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
So, I like to read the trade magazines, the radio trade magazines, Paul Cross. And Paul, so every now and again I'll throw this question out at you. Do you know who the biggest advertiser in radio is this week?
This week?
Yeah, who's the biggest advertiser in radio? I think the last time I threw this out there, it was Home Depot. So who do you think?
I really don't know. Nationally, I have no idea.
You read their sponsorship regularly.
Wendy's?
Yes. Wendy's. Yeah. Wendy's is the top radio advertiser in America right now, followed by Babbel. the language and the language learning course, and ZipRecruiter. That's our 1, 2, and 3. Those are the biggest radio ad buys for the week of August 7th to the 13th. So that would have been last week, I guess. So, and yes, so somebody asked if I ended up getting a burger last night. I did, but I ended up going to McDonald's and I got a Big Mac and a large fry, and it was delicious. I mean,
and you know what's funny is that I don't have a Wendy's sponsored today at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't have a Babbel. I don't have a ZipRecruiter.
Oh, we need to get on that. So. We absolutely need to get on that. All right, so if you're just joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show here on WDBO, let me kind of catch you up on where we are with a couple of things. First and foremost, and let me be really, really abundantly clear about this. I heading into this 2024 presidential campaign, I started out supporting Ron DeSantis. I still support Ron DeSantis, and I would love to see him do better. I would still love to see him turn it around. And there still is time to turn it around. Given the latest indictments, though, I have grown so weary of watching the Democrats try to eliminate Donald Trump as a political opponent by indicting him time and time and time and time and time again. Now, I don't for a second believe that Donald Trump is squeaky clean on this. I think that Donald Trump largely has himself to blame for most of his legal woes, things that he could have done differently. But I do believe that the Democrats are setting it up to the Democrats' own fault. I think the Democrats, to the Democrats' own harm. I think the Democrats are setting up Donald Trump to be a stronger candidate. With every indictment, his polling numbers go up, which is absolutely insane. So I am of a mind now where I'm starting to shift my support, not allegiance. I don't have allegiance to any of these bozos, not a one of them. So I might support them, but I don't have allegiance to them. I have allegiance to the country. I do not have allegiance to any occupant of the White House. I'm not going to be carrying big banners and flags. I'm not going to wear hats. I don't follow these people as if they are the creator. They are the created, and I only worship the creator. I don't follow and pledge allegiance to the created. I pledge my allegiance to the creator. But at this point, I'm leaning towards supporting Donald Trump. Though I will say there is still plenty of time. And if you have made up your mind already, I guess more power to you. I want to see what all candidates are going to get into the race. I want to see what candidates become viable. At this point, do you know that the first GOP presidential debate, only 5 candidates have qualified for the debate? Only 5 out of what? We have 12 GOP candidates right now, and only 5 have qualified for the debate. So I'm just broken at this point. I think I have just collapsed under the weight of the hysteria about Donald Trump. And at this point, you know what? I would hate to see the mess. Whoever takes over the White House next, if it's Donald Trump, if it's Ron DeSantis, if it is RFK Jr., someone's going to have a giant mess to clean up after Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden has been disastrous, and someone's going to have a huge mess to clean up. And you know what? Might as well be Donald Trump. Let him clean up the mess. But he made part of the mess. Let him clean up part of the mess.
Come on, Joe. It's really easy to see why Trump is losing to Biden in these polls. It's because they're asking all Democrats.
No, I don't think. I mean, look, I will remain in the category of people who do not believe that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. Were there irregularities? Yes. Were there enough irregularities to overturn the election? No, there were not. There are irregularities or a margin of error in every single American election. There always are. There always will be. I do not believe that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him. I think Donald Trump miscalculated the number of American voters who hate Donald Trump. I think he miscalculated that. And I think Donald Trump, he sat on his tush arguing that ballot harvesting and all this stuff was wrong and unethical and inappropriate, and you should only vote on election day, and you shouldn't absentee vote, and you shouldn't do anything else like that. Well, therein lies a huge, huge problem. Democrats were able to get more people to the polls to cast their votes than Republicans were. So I don't believe the election was stolen from Donald Trump. But I think the Democrats are propelling him into a position where he could win the presidency back. If you're just joining us, we're also talking about looting in Hawaii. As I have kind of walked back a little bit, yesterday I was very firm about shoot on sight any looters. But as I was reading some of the details about some of the looting, a number of those people are Maui residents, not interlopers, not people who've come in to profiteer, looking for precious metals or anything else that they can find in the ash heaps that were once people's homes. But some of the people who are looting are, in fact, Maui residents who are just in need of food. They're in need of water because they're not getting, in spite of Joe Biden's words, they're just words out of Joe Biden's mouth. In spite of Joe Biden's just words, they're not getting what they need. They're not getting water. They're not getting food. And so some of the Maui residents are breaking into restaurants and stealing food and water. And I would absolutely not be in favor of shooting those people on sight.
Okay, Joe, I'm getting scared. I agree with you 100% so far today. The looting issue, it's a big difference going into a place when the place has been devastated to try to get some water or food to survive, rather than the scenes we frequently see of people carrying out big screen TVs and coach purses.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. And by the way, if you think that I only play open mics that agree with me,
actually, everybody that listens to WDBO is weary and tired of listening to you. I wish you would get fired.
Yeah, so I play open mics from other people as well. So just so you understand that.
Hey, Joe, I voted for Trump twice, but I'd have a hard time voting for him the third time because he really is guilty of everything they've charged him with. It's just other people do the same thing and nobody gets charged. That's the issue I have with that.
Isn't that a thing, though? I mean, that is so infuriating. I mean, that is to have Hillary Clinton today, last night, actually, and what a surprise that as fate would have it, as the Fulton County DA was unveiling the latest indictments against Donald Trump, that MSNBC just happened to have Hillary Clinton, and I'm so sorry, what is her name? The woman that hosts on MSNBC at night from time to time. What is her name? Why can't I think of her name? Greg, do you know her name? Rachel Maddow, yeah. So Rachel Maddow, who's no longer, in their full-time primetime lineup like that. I mean, she kind of quit that. But Rachel Maddow just happened to be there with Hillary Clinton, of all people, on the night that the Fulton County DA unveils this indictment. I mean, what a shocker that was. They clearly got a heads up on that one. She is such a hypocrite. She has long insisted that she won the election against Donald Trump, the first election against Donald Trump, and that she should have been president. And for her to say, this is just terrible, and if there's a silver lining, it's just that the system is working.
Joe, I think the use of the term looter is incorrect. Like, for some situations, like you said, finding food or shelter, those aren't looters, those are people surviving. So there's a big difference, and I understand what you're saying. If you're stealing for profits, for gain, looting is the word. If you're taking to survive, you're just surviving.
Well, and I get that. Look, I get that. I was the one who brought that up. But from a glance, they look the same. I mean, if you're busting in windows of restaurants and you're climbing through windows and kicking down doors, coming through the rooftop or whatever it is to get into a restaurant, it's pretty hard to tell what you're doing without having a lengthy conversation, or at least a brief conversation with you to find out, are you there to steal all of this guy's equipment, or are you there to make yourself a sandwich and be able to feed your family? I mean, there's two different ways, but from a glance, they both look like looting. And you really, in that point, would really have to be careful. I want to go back to this guy.
Actually, everybody that listens to WDBO is weary and tired of listening to you. I wish you would get fired.
I honestly, if you're going to say things like that, and I don't mind. I totally don't mind. But if you're going to say things like that, give an example. Actually, make a case. Make an argument. Don't just say you hate someone. Don't just say you want to see someone get fired. Make a case. Explain why. But if you're just sitting there taking shots and assassinating people without explaining, without arguing, without making a compelling case, it's kind of hard to take you serious. I might get behind your effort to get me fired if I thought you had a good argument. But you didn't make an argument, so it's pointless, really. My name is Joe Kelley. You can join us at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. We are seeing a few more storms that are popping up right now with some of those sea breeze storms down around St. Cloud out to Lake Hart, heading up all the way out towards Oak Hill and Scottsmore, out towards New Smyrna Beach. Some pretty heavy showers and storms there, and some more ones that are coming in from the Villages neck of the woods. So we'll keep a close eye on these showers and storms here throughout the afternoon into the evening. I'm Joe Kelley. You're listening to WDBO.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Breaking news to lively debates, covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
So this guy who's a Ron DeSantis supporter, evidently he's been a Ron DeSantis supporter for a long time. This is in Yahoo News today. He's the owner of a 117-year-old Florida restaurant chain, forced to fire undocumented staff members who had worked for his family for decades after he was fined $500,000. The guy's name is Richard Gansmart, and he is the head of Family of Restaurants chain that is based in Tampa, owns several landmark restaurants across the state. He's been a strong supporter of DeSantis here in Florida, but he told the Miami Herald that DeSantis' immigration crackdown has gone too far, and he wanted stronger protections for migrants, not stronger protections for residents. This restaurateur wants stronger protections for migrants, or undocumented migrants, also known as illegal immigrants. Gansmart was forced to fire 19 of his employees after federal immigration officials showed up at one of his restaurants and discovered non-compliant work documents for those staffers. 7 of them had worked for Gansmart's family for decades. He says, "We think they're legal, but when we had to check, we found 7 people who had been with me for 30 years, paying taxes, had children, grandchildren, and we were required to terminate them." Gansmart says he's very proud of DeSantis and everything that he's done. But he says, my concern is that the governor putting in a new law that says that those who have expired driver's licenses cannot renew it because they're no longer legal. They cannot work. Their papers are no longer legal. What in the world do you think that Ron DeSantis was up to when he initiated this new law? This is exactly what he had in mind. And I'm not mad. This is doing exactly what the law was designed to do, and that is routing out illegal immigrants. We will never, and I get so tired. I hear people all the time saying, we ought to put them all in a bus and send them back to Mexico. That is the most ignorant comment on a variety of levels. We're talking about 10, 11 million people in the United States illegally. There aren't enough buses to send all those people back to Mexico. The other part of that is they're not all from Mexico. In fact, these days, few of them are from Mexico. Mexico is a conduit. Mexico is not the source. They're just passing through Mexico. But Governor DeSantis' bill, and thus law, that cracks down on illegal immigration simply is mirroring what federal law is supposed to be. In fact, the part I left out about this guy losing his employees is it happened in 2021, well before Governor DeSantis' law kicked in. Governor DeSantis' law started July 1st of this year, last month, July 1st. So this guy got tagged by federal officials, not state officials, and he's blaming DeSantis for this. Well, that's hogwash. DeSantis had nothing to do with that. And I'm sorry, but you shouldn't be employing illegal immigrants. We'll never be able to put everybody on a bus and send them back to their origin countries. All we can hope for is to make our state and preferably our country difficult for people to illegally enter and to assimilate into our society. Not that they're necessarily assimilating. Many of them just come here and live their own lives, and they don't assimilate into our society. They don't adopt our way of life. They don't adopt the American way. They adopt their own home-based ways. But this guy, who's again claims to be a longtime DeSantis supporter, he's barking up the wrong tree on this because it's not even DeSantis' law that got him fined $500,000. It's the federal law that every state is supposed to be supporting in the first place. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk, WDBO.
All right, my favorite critic, my favorite detractor on the open mic, it's the Chocolate Joe guy.
No, she never said that she won the election like your daddy Trump, you know. She might be surprised like everybody because who wouldn't know if it's stupid people enough to vote for Trump, but that's from that to try to overturn an election is very far away, Chocolate Joe. So stick with the fact and you don't be a hypocrite, okay? You freaking hypocrite.
Yeah, so he's arguing that Hillary Clinton didn't deny the election results.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it.
These are all Democrats.
It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons.
All right, you want to call me a hypocrite? Hillary Clinton is the hypocrite. She's the one who denied that she actually lost the election, and then she criticizes Donald Trump when he says that he was cheated out of an election. They are the same people. They're cut of the same cloth.
Hi, Joe. This is Lauren. Whoever becomes the GOP nominee for president, we have to get behind that person and support them because we have to support the Republican Party, the party of less government. However, if it were to me to choose who would be the nominee, I would choose Vivek Ramaswamy, because I've gained so much respect for that man.
Yeah, as a lot of people have. He's definitely gaining in the polls. I mean, it's stunning that Chris Christie in New Hampshire is now in second place over Ron DeSantis.
No, she never.
Oh, hang on. It's the same guy. Let's see.
Joe, so you mean to tell me that you're going to part sides with somebody that created a coup, that has done all kinds of illegal crap, and now indicted one more time? Because you want to fix the country? Come on, bro. Think about it. Do the laws go out the window? What happened to the Constitution? So right now we elect criminals to the presidency.
I don't know how to break it to you, but right now we have a criminal in the White House. Joe Biden is a criminal. If you don't look at the evidence that has been presented so far about Joe Biden and conclude that he is bought and paid for, that he is a criminal, that he is on the take from his masters in Russia, in Ukraine, and elsewhere, we already have a criminal in the White House. So if you're objecting to Donald Trump, the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is that Donald Trump doesn't have the aid of the Department of Justice covering for him the way that Joe Biden does.
Joe, now that you claim that you're a Trumper, can we send you a Trump flag to fly proudly in front of your house?
No, I will never, ever fly a Trump flag or a flag for any other political candidate, presidential candidate ever in front of my home. Again, I pledge my allegiance to the United States of America. I do not pledge any allegiance to any elected officials ever, nor will I ever do that.
Joe Kelley, this is Kim from Oviedo. I can't believe the caller who said everybody hates you. I don't hate you. I feel like you're my long-lost brother.
Aww.
However, I am a little bit livid about the ageism you talked about with politicians retiring at 65 or 75. I had an 80-year-old dad who was sharp as a tack.
Look, I get that, and believe me, I'm not an ageist, okay? I may have my isms, but ageism is not one of them. I frankly love old timers. I love them. When my father hit his 80s, my dad was an absolute blast to spend time with. And all of my dad's 80-plus-year-old friends were wonderful. And I loved getting to know them. And I just think that senior citizens are one of the most valuable assets in our communities, to the point at which I live in a 55-plus community, and I love my neighbors. I barely make the cut. I am 55, so I barely make the cut to live. They had to check my ID before I could move into this community. But my neighbors, I can assure you, are quite a bit older than I am. But these very same federal government says that airline pilots can't fly when they're older than, 65? 65? And I know there are some 80-year-olds that are as sharp as a tack and some 80-year-olds that are well into dementia. I realize it varies from person to person. Totally get that, and I'm with you on that. But I think something has to be done to prevent people like Joe Biden from being elected office or from staying in office. I think something has to be done to keep people from staying in office like Dianne Feinstein. 90 years old, she has no idea where she is or what day of the week it is. She's completely unaware that she took 3 months off from office while she was dealing with shingles.
Hey, Joe, go ahead. Let's make your case. Why is sending them all back on a bus so stupid on so many levels? Nobody said we had to send them all back at one time. As we find them, let's send them back. And if it requires a boat, okay, send them back on a boat. Also, quit calling them illegal immigrants. They're not immigrants. They're invaders. Illegal invaders.
All right, I'm not going to call them illegal invaders. Some of them are in fact, migrants. In fact, calling them illegal immigrants also causes some people heartburn and prefer to have them called undocumented immigrants. Either way, you guys can pick amongst your own words as to how you prefer to phrase it. It is impossible to put them all on buses. As I mentioned, when there's 10 to 11 million people in the United States, you can't put them all on a bus and send them back to Mexico. I already made this point. They're not all from Mexico. In fact, these days, very few of them are actually from Mexico. There aren't enough buses on the planet to send that many people back to their original countries. And the smarter way to do it is, first and foremost, secure the border, and secondly, make it so that there is no benefit to coming to the United States illegally. You're not going to be able to get a job. You're not going to be able to buy a house. You're not going to be able to vote. You're not going to be able to get a driver's license. You're not going to be able to put your kids in school. You're not going to get free health care. You're not going to get anything. And then they will leave on their own. We don't need to bus people home. We just need to make the environment such that they don't want to stay here. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
Really strong storms that are developing right now over near Meadowwoods, Lake Hart, heading up towards Belle Island, the Conway area, out towards Bithlo, Christmas, Wedgefield, and then all the way out to the beaches. Honestly, these are just shy of severe thunderstorm status. Very heavy rain if you're in the Lake Hart area right now. Just passed through Kissimmee. There's also a big band of heavy rain and showers out in the Davenport area that is moving to the northeast. We're keeping a close eye on that. All these storms are moving to the northeast. And there's even, if you go further up towards St. Augustine, some big storms there. And then once again out towards Leesburg and the Villages, some big heavy storms out that way are making their way this way as well. Paul Cross, you're down for tacos, right? You like tacos as much as anybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Taco Bell is offering free tacos every Tuesday from today through September 5th. And when I say free tacos, I think it's more accurate to say they're offering free taco on every Tuesday to celebrate the release of the new Taco Tuesday trademark by their rival chain Taco John's. Taco Bell is offering one free nacho cheese Doritos Loco Taco every Tuesday from August 15th, which is today, through September 5th. At participating locations nationwide. No purchase necessary to claim your free taco. Obviously, the idea here, by the way, that taco normally retails for $2.49. Wouldn't you agree here that the idea, Paul, is that someone is not going to go in and just get one taco and leave? I mean,
it's a Doritos taco. You can't eat one chip. You can't eat one taco. Yeah. You're going to go in, and they could give away free tacos every day. Throw in a free taco with every meal. You're going to get a lot of people going there and paying money.
Now, I have never had a Doritos Locos taco. I've never had a nacho cheese Doritos Locos taco. And I don't think I'm going to start today, to be honest with you. But just in case you're hungry, if you have a participating Taco Bell nearby, you can get a free taco this afternoon and into the evening today and now through September 5th. Please make a note of it. Thank you so much for your phone calls, your comments, your open mics, even the angry ones. I like your comments, and I'm glad that you're listening. Even angry people, you're welcome here to listen as well. My name is Joe Kelley. I'll catch you in the morning, filling in for the Brian Kilmeade Show, and then I'll be back here tomorrow, 5 to 7 p.m. on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.